It is our distinct pleasure now to be joined by Palestinian poet Mosab Abu Toha. Mosab, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me.
So, Mosab, probably for the rest of your life, you'll be introduced over and over again as a Palestinian poet who's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize, and for that, hearty congratulations from us to you. So that is how I will introduce you now to our audience. Also, a Gaza resident who lived through some of this genocide and has been reporting on it and writing about it relentlessly since then. The thing I wanted to start with you about is the moment, days after you were announced as the winner of the Pulitzer Prize, your, was it Facebook account or Instagram account? I remember one of your major accounts was suspended. Which one was that?
Oh, it was Facebook, in fact. And it seems like after I won, there was a big campaign against me. So I think there are lots of reports against my account and some of my posts, which have been, about the massacres that have been committed against my people. So it seems that was the response of so many people who hated my win. So I think they wanted to shut my platform down.
And something that stunned me actually was that just recently your account was suspended over at Substack, which has taken a real kind of outspoken position when it comes to free expression. I and a lot of other people reached out to Substack, and they very quickly resolved the situation. Do you think something similar happened? Was there a mass attack on the account, or did you ever get an explanation for what happened with Substack?
I mean, Substack, it was really weird because when they suspended my account, they said there's been not a lot. I mean, they said that I'm using spam and phishing, blah, 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 which is not, I mean, I have been only posting, breaking news from Gaza, some footage. So if they said, oh, because you are breaking the community guidelines, you are posting graphic content, okay, maybe that's a reason I would appeal to them that this is very important to share on your platform. This is how people are gonna get to know what's happening. But they mentioned spam and phishing, which is, I mean, I don't know what kind of accusation this is.
And Facebook, because you had just recently won the Pulitzer, I think felt embarrassed about what they had done.
Yes.
And would you call it an apology? What was the response? Did you get a different private response than they gave publicly?
Oh, I got no. It was only the comment that I got from the spokesperson for Meta Communication department. He said, oh, it was a mistake or an error or something. I don't know why something like that would happen to someone who has just won a Pulitzer Prize. And why such an error or a mistake, happen, especially after I won the Pulitzer Prize. So it indeed, my account was suspended on Facebook at least 3 or 4 times in the past few months. My Instagram also was suspended one time. For X, my account has been locked, which means I couldn't use it unless I deleted the content that they were asking me to delete. So for someone who has been posting every day, maybe 30, 40 times, I couldn't wait, to appeal to X, to review the content that they are, that they think should be deleted, because I would have to wait for hours or days. But I mean, sometimes I say, okay, let's just delete this content because I want to post more and more, because every single minute, and sometimes, I mean, every single hour, and sometimes every single minute, there is breaking news or updates to something that I posted. So you get the news that 3 people were killed, and then a few minutes later, you get the names. So, for example, while I'm talking to you, there was an airstrike on a house in Jabalia, and a mother was killed. Her name is Asiya Jadallah, and her 3 children were killed, Yahya, Musa, Ibrahim, and they were 3 children. So it's not like I'm posting, a piece of breaking news and that's it. No, sometimes I have in a few minutes, because we get the news, slowly in Gaza. So I would post, an update with the names, and sometimes
Right.
I'd have to draw the family tree, post it. So I can't wait for Instagram or X or Facebook, to just slow this process down, because this is one of the only windows that the people have into Gaza.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw our report, but a while ago, we obtained at DropSite a huge tranche of documents from whistleblowers, and one of the stories that we did out of those documents was about an Israeli government-driven operation to mass report accounts, mostly of Palestinians, but all of, around the question of Palestine. And what they would do is they would send 15 at a time and just send them, over and over and over and over again. And each one was the exact same thing. Like it was copy and pasted, and even included grammatical errors, which for some reason drove me crazy, because if you're going to send this tens of millions of times, copy edit it. Like get the typos out of it. Like show some respect for your propaganda operation.
Exactly.
But they didn't have to. And the whistleblowers also gave us data showing that I think the average time to respond to these Israeli government complaints was about 30 seconds.
Indeed. I noticed this. Sometimes Instagram would delete something, and then I appeal, or I ask, I submit something like a request to review, and then I get the response to that request to review my content within a few seconds. You say, okay, our decision was to delete it. Okay. So it didn't go through people who would, okay, let's see the content, oh, this is credible news. Okay. So, it might, so they don't spend time, to review, the content that we post, because they know, okay, so this is a Palestinian guy who's posting about Gaza. We remove his content. If he submits a request to review this, we are gonna ignore it and then say, okay, we reviewed it and it's gone. And it's gone forever,
Right. And I think what's so important about a lot of the work that you're doing, DropSite has reporters that we work with on the ground in Gaza, but most Western news outlets do not. And they will give a perfunctory complaint that Western journalists are not allowed into Gaza, and that's a legitimate complaint. They absolutely should be, but they kind of stop there. They kind of throw their hands up. Well, that's a shame. It would be good if they would allow Western journalists in. They don't, so I guess we're gonna just kind of move on, rather than saying, oh wait, there are hundreds, at one point thousands of people in Gaza who can do journalism, as well as 2 million people who can be sources for as witnesses, as sources, many of them taking pictures and videos, which is where your work becomes so valuable, because you have from having lived there for so long, just a network of people that know that you're an outlet, and you're that's going to reduce the risk of fake videos, as if you remember from the beginning of the war, I think Israel was posting footage from Syria. Now, anytime there's a conflict like this, you'll have people opportunistically just trying to get views by pulling carnage from somewhere else in the world and recirculating it. So that's why I think the work that you're doing is so important. So I would encourage everybody to follow that. But I wanted to get from you just a little bit of flavor of what Gaza is like, because you and I were talking before this interview about the unique nature of Gaza, in the sense that many of the people there are refugees from elsewhere. So how does that play into the building of the social fabric there?
So, Ryan, I was just laughing because when you said elsewhere, someone would imagine that they were coming from Europe, from Africa, from the Caribbean. No,
they were coming from elsewhere, like 5 miles away, or 10 miles away.
Exactly. This elsewhere is just on the same beach as Gaza.
Worlds live inside that word.
So, indeed. So 70% of the population in Gaza are refugees and their descendants. I am a refugee. I was born in a shelter refugee camp where Israel committed a massacre yesterday against the Judah family. Today, the baby, the fetus whose video we watched, the beheaded fetus. No one has ever imagined watching a beheaded fetus. So that fetus was killed in a Shati refugee camp where I was born. So I was born as a refugee in a Shati refugee camp. My father was also born in the same refugee camp. My grandparents.
Do we know how the mother is, by the way? I know you said that she had survived initially. Do you
So
know anything
no,
about her condition?
that was another fetus. No.
Oh,
I
jeez.
posted yesterday about a fetus. That was in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. So the mother survived, and the doctors could, remove the dead fetus from inside her womb. But the fetus today, the beheaded fetus, because yesterday it was not a beheaded fetus. That fetus, excuse me, I'm giving a lot of information. The fetus yesterday was 6 months old in his mother's womb. Today's fetus, the beheaded fetus, was 8 months in his mother's womb. So that fetus and his mother today were killed in the Shati refugee camp where I was born in 1992. My father was born in the same refugee camp in 1962. My grandparents, Hassan and Khadra, were expelled from Yafa in 1948, and they moved to live in the Shati refugee camp in the hope that they would return, to Yafa, to their house on the beach. But that never happened. They died in the refugee camp. They were buried in a cemetery next to the refugee camp. And now the refugee camp has been attacked by the Israeli vicious military campaign, the genocidal campaign. And the cemeteries where my grandparents were buried is gone. So there is no refugee camp anymore. The cemeteries where these refugees were buried are gone. And the children and grandchildren of these refugees are being massacred on a daily basis. So that's why I think I say this again and again and again. Israel's genocide against the people in Gaza is unlike other genocides. In this genocide, the genociders, the people who are committing the genocide, are genociding a population who have been refugees for 77 years. So it's not like you are killing someone. So there are two very important points to highlight when we talk about the Gaza genocide. First of all, Israel is massacring and genociding a population where 70% of them are refugees and their descendants. The other point about this genocide is that Israel is wiping out entire families. I don't remember how many times I posted a tree of a family which was wiped out entirely, including one of my first cousins, Tahrir, who was killed with her disabled husband and their 5 children. All the children are under 18, of course. And there is a third point to highlight. Of course, it's much talked about, which is the fact that 50% of the population are children. Yeah. So this genocide is being carried out against a population 70% of whom are refugees, 50% of whom the whole population are children. The whole population is living in a very, very tiny place where every time a missile hit something, especially these days, it's gonna kill at least 30 or 40 people. Why? Because already people evacuated Bet Lahia, where I used to live before I left, the Jabali refugee camp, and Bet Hanun. So it means that these families who had to leave, especially also in Rafah, the people who left Rafah, so all the people who left these cities have been concentrated in Shati refugee camp in Gaza City, Khan Yunis, Nusayrat, Maghazi, Deir al-Balah. So if one missile hit one house in October 2023, if it could kill 10 people, these days it could kill 30 or 40 people, because people are staying together these days.
You mentioned your cousin, who was disabled, who was killed recently. I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about the way that men are talked about in coverage of this genocide. And as a man, it's something that occurs to me often. And as a man who, if I were killed, would be described as a fighting age male, even though I'm pushing 50 years old. There's nobody I'm successfully fighting against at this point in my life. But if you were killed, the same thing. They would say, this number of women and children, but then this number of men, and just kind of put it off to the side as if, well, that's okay. The men were killed, but they may have been fighters. Who's to say? So nobody really even discusses, their fates. As I understand it, how many fighters can there be in Qassam brigades? We're talking 30,000, 40,000. something at this level? I don't know if you have a
I don't
closer
know.
estimate.
I don't know. Maybe something like, Israel says 50 or 30,000. I
Right.
don't know.
So even if we take Israel's highest number, that would be 50,000.
Now, these days, they are telling you they are recruiting more people.
Right. So let's say there's even 100,000.
Right. I don't know whether this is a sign of success or defeat. I don't know.
Right. Exactly. You don't know what Israel ought to say for its propaganda. Are there fewer or are there more? Either way, that would suggest that the number of men who are fighters are in the single-digit percentages. So if a man is killed in Gaza, there's a 90+% chance that he was not a fighter.
Of course.
As you talk to friends there, talk to family there, how do the men handle the fact that no matter where they are, it feels like they are considered by the world to be fair game?
Well, I think for us in Gaza especially, we know that Israel has been dehumanizing us, treating us as people who do not deserve life, people who do not deserve any humanitarian aid, people who, for us, it is even dehumanizing when we talk about aid. We are not a people who cannot work or cannot, work the land and plant the trees and feed ourselves. It is dehumanizing when we talk about aid. But for people in Gaza, we know from day one, even before October 7th, the Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir said there is nothing that is called Palestinians. That was in the 50s. So these Israelis haven't been seeing us as people who are worthy of life. There is nothing that is called Palestinian. These are Arabs, there are places in Saudi Arabia or the Arabian Peninsula, you just go to the Arab countries, etc. So they don't see us as human beings, not to say they do not see us as equal human beings. I think, unfortunately, because Israel has been constantly killing entire families, especially targeting the men in the street, the people who are trying to win, to bring food to their families in Gaza. No one talks about this a lot, but they notice that we always in the media focus on the number of children, the number of women, the number of the elderly, as if men do not count in the number, as if their death, the death of people my age and your age, are normal. Because, you could be a terrorist, you could be, supporting these people, you could have gone in the street and celebrated October 7th. So I mean, literally, people do not talk about this a lot, but unfortunately, we internalize it. We have that feeling that, unfortunately, people, we saw the video of, I forgot his first name, but from El Farra family, the person with special needs about whom I posted a few weeks ago. He was in Khan Yunis. He was a person with special needs, and he was going around his house, and then Israel bombed him, and then there was an Israeli journalist who posted the video of the drones missile hitting him and killing him, and he said, "Oh, this is a terrorist." And then a few days later, when his family posted that, "Oh, this is my brother," and they showed the location, and it turned out to be a person with special needs. So it's not like, even it's not only the disabled men are being targeted and killed, but also, of course, the people who are going to win a loaf of bread from here and there, people who are going about their lives trying to find some food, who are being targeted. So targeting men is not only a war crime, but by killing someone, it is a war crime to kill someone, and to kill someone who is living under occupation is a double war crime. But also to kill the men, when we know that it is very hard, very, very hard for families to survive without a male, without a father or a brother or a son. This is also going to affect the women and the children in the families.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that too, because now we're in the stage of deliberate starvation, and if you watch any of the videos about the quote unquote Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's attempts to distribute aid, which turn into firing squads each time, it's younger men who are jockeying for this aid, and I can only imagine how much competition there is to get to be there first, because it's going to be, the window's going to be open for 10 minutes or so, and then if you are lucky enough to grab one of these boxes, then you have to make it all the way back to your family to share it. And it made me reflect on the scenes that we've witnessed, made me reflect on how we had not seen images like that previously. I know here in Washington, if we were under siege, we were under occupation, bombardment, and starvation, we would have turned on each other in the first 5 minutes. It would be anarchy and chaos. Yet for 19 months or so, that was not the case in Gaza. I'm curious, from your conversations with people there, it seems deliberate that one of the goals of this GHF is to rip at the social fabric of Palestinian society, to turn people against each other, and then eventually into that produce gangs and chaos and anarchy that cannot be organized as a political force. Is that working? Like, is the social fabric being effectively tugged at?
Well, I mean, to be honest, there have been there has been lots of problems in Gaza, especially after Israel's targeting of the police in Gaza. So we don't talk a lot about Israel's targeting of policemen or security people who are trying to arrange, for example, people's collecting food from aid distribution before GHF, but also from bakeries. When there were bakeries that were distributing bread, bags of bread for people. So Israel was targeting policemen even without
at the infamous flour massacre. They targeted policemen.
Yes, that's been going for after October 7th. So they did target policemen because they say, it's easy for them to say, these are Hamas operatives, these are Hamas members, etc. But these were policemen or security people who were trying to organize, the flow of people when they collect something from a bakery, from a distribution center for UNRWA or for World Food Program. So they were targeting these people. And then later, when trucks started to enter Gaza, these same people, the Gaza policemen, also the security people, were trying, to secure the delivery or the path for these trucks into the NGO warehouses in Gaza. Israel was targeting them. So this naturally would create a gap where people have to find it, their role, to take their own food. And unfortunately, because there are some families, there have been some families who had their own, weapons to protect themselves, like tribes, like some powerful families in Gaza. But after 2007, Hamas controlled these families. No, there hasn't been a lot of clashes between these families, even though they had their own, clashing coves, etc. But unfortunately, these days you may find some families using, and sometimes their families would say, these boys from our family, they do not represent us, we disagree with what they are doing, etc. But some people do have some weapons, but they don't use them freely, because this distribution system with the GHF is unfair. Sometimes people who cannot make it to the distribution centers would stand on the road waiting for some people with 1 or 2 boxes of food, and they would threaten these people, if you don't give us what you have, we're gonna kill you. And this happened, unfortunately. This happened with so many people that I know. So Israel created this disorder by killing, of course, the policemen and security people, by putting these distribution sites farther and farther away from where people live. So some people who cannot afford to go to the distribution centers in Rafah or in Nusayrat would find it easier for them to wait in the street and steal the food from others. This happened, but of course this would happen anywhere else. And the reason is that the distribution system is unfair, and of course the absence of any security forces in Gaza would result in this catastrophic disorder in the society.
Have there been any organic attempt? What organic attempts have there been to create a new system of control and order to try to prevent this all for one for all, not all for the opposite of that, all against all?
I mean, there are good families who work together to secure the delivery of aid into the warehouses before they are distributed to people. So there had been so many attempts, but at the same time, Israel does target these groups of people when they are waiting and trying to secure the road for the trucks to go to the warehouses where they are supposed to go. So Israel does target these people, even I mean, all people. We call them mukhtar, the head of the family. They would be, because they are the elite in the family, so people would respect them. So they would be forming a line, to tell everyone, oh, we are the big families here. We want the food to go to the warehouses before it's distributed and given to everyone. So the society has been trying, but it is uncontrollable. And many times Israel does target any attempt to organize life in Gaza.
What have you heard from people about what these 21, 22 months have done to, say, teen children? So, and let me give you some context here. In Washington, D.C., we had a COVID lockdown where for about a year and a half, the schools were shut down, and kids were either at home or they were kind of, freely kind of just going around the city. And the cohort that came back to school is described by parents and teachers as unruly, as having a really difficult time readjusting to kind of normal school life. Now, the scale of going through a COVID lockdown in a rich country and going through a genocide is night and day. So not making that comparison, but I'm curious what being out of school, physical buildings, because I know they're trying to do as much learning as they can, but then also facing the fear of bombardment and actual bombardment, witnessing relatives die, getting wounded themselves, being malnourished endlessly and thirsty. Like, what is that doing to, let's say you were 12 when this started, now you're 14 years old. How is it shaping people's kind of coming of age into eventual adulthood?
I think this is the one question that no one in the world has thought about seriously. So the kids who were 4 years old or 5 years old when this, when Israel started its genocide in October 2023, no one thought about, what kind of children, what kind of people, would come up after all these atrocities that have been committing against them. Some of them were maimed, some of them were killed, some of them lost family members, some of them were the only survivors in the families. So no one really, expressed any concern about the mental health, not only the physical, the mental health. What kind of people are going to be living in Gaza after this comes to an end? United Nations Relief and Work Agency, UNRWA, where I taught English for about 4 years, and I lost so many of my students, has been trying to start school, has been trying to do something online even. I mean, when I left Gaza, I was in Egypt, and then I'm here in the United States. We were doing something online on WhatsApp. So we would create groups with our students to try, and educate them. Maybe the teacher would send, a worksheet and then explain it. Send the students, if anyone has any questions, or sometimes I would record myself, explaining the lesson to the children before sending them questions, and I would take, I would have an attendance sheet with me. So we were trying. I mean, I'm no longer working with UNRWA, so we were trying to keep up with the children's education in Gaza. But Israel, as you know, has bombed most of the schools in Gaza. And the remaining schools, families are sheltering in these schools, like I was sheltering in a school in Jabalia camp. So Israel left no chance for these children to live.
Right.
And, even, I mean, it is true that everyone is trying to survive, but even while surviving, these children are not practicing any single ounce of their childhood. So not only are they not learning, and of course, most of them haven't learned Arabic, English, math, science, anything, especially those who are 5 or 6 or 7 years old. So it's not only that they did not go to school or learn anything in the past 21 months, but at the same time, they have been doing some work that only grown-ups would be doing.
Right.
Like standing in a queue to get water, to fill a bucket of water, try to go to the GHF sites to get shot at, or to be killed, or to be wounded. Even before GHF, I was in that school shelter in Jabalia, and my son, who was at the time, he was 7 years old, he would be carrying a bucket of water, so that his mother. I know I would be in a different place collecting firewood or paper, to make fire.
Right.
So he was 7 years old, and there were some children who were younger, maybe 5 years old, who would be walking in the street looking for something, like as I said, firewood, to help their family survive. So these children were doing the work of grown-ups. They were made, to work their way to survive with their families. So I think this is a very important question to ask the people who are concerned about the future of the Palestinian people, whether they liked us or not. So they should think, a lot about the population in Gaza, especially the children. What kind of children? Whether we would have normal or abnormal children in Gaza who have been surviving or trying to survive a genocide for 21 months. And it's, as a father, one of my main concerns, because most of the people in Gaza, if not all of them, are literate. So it is a big concern for us that our children get educated. They could read, they could write, they could do math, they know the colors, they know how to create something. So for us to be deprived of education is a big deal for us in Gaza.
It's one of the, if not the most educated centers on the planet,
yes.
right?
Yes, Gaza is. Yeah.
How did you and your family get out when you got out?
Oh, well, how did I go out? It was a miracle, because my youngest child, Mustafa, was born in the United States when I was at Harvard doing a fellowship. So when we went back to Gaza, he was an American citizen. He had an American passport. So in October 2023, we filled a form, to evacuate Gaza through the American embassy in Jerusalem. And when we got the green light to leave, we were in North Gaza. And at the time, Israel has separated North Gaza from South Gaza, where the Rafah border crossing is. So it was not safe for any of us, to travel from North Gaza to South Gaza. And if you ask how far South Gaza is from North Gaza, it's about 30 to 40 minutes by car, but it would take your life to arrive, at the other end of the Gaza Strip. So I tried, through the American embassy, if they could, coordinate with the Israeli army that this is a family who's permitted to leave Gaza, because we don't want to be killed on the way. We don't want the car or the donkey pulled car to be bombed while we were on the way. The Americans said we couldn't do any of that. I reached out to the Red Cross, and they said the same thing. We don't coordinate for individuals or families. We only coordinate for ambulances or fire trucks or rescue missions. And unfortunately, even the Red Cross cannot coordinate for such missions anymore. Today, this is out of the topic. Today, I reached out to someone. I posted about this. One of the journalists, Marwa Musallam, has been under the rubble along with two of her brothers. And
Since
no
Monday?
one until now. Yeah, Monday. Until now, we have been posting and sharing and sending information and location, the coordinates. and no one could reach that area to see if these people are still alive or not, to just, you know, to just get them out. And so many stories of people who got stuck under the rubble. Some of them are my wife's family members. Even the ambulances which were just maybe a kilometer away, to about 2 miles away from the bombed house. No one could coordinate for the ambulances to go and pick the bodies or the injured from that house. So for us, the Red Cross said we couldn't coordinate for people, for families. We only do that for ambulances, fire trucks, rescue missions. So I had to, you know, to find my way out of North Gaza. And at that checkpoint on the Salah ad-Din Street, I was abducted by the Israeli forces without any prior notice that I would be questioned or anything. I was picked from a line of so many people, and people before me were taken and after me were taken from that same line. I mean, I was blindfolded, I was handcuffed, I was beaten. I had to, unfortunately, to undress, to remove all my clothes in front of 3 soldiers under gunpoint. And I still remember, I mean, I remember every single detail of that day.
Mm-hmm.
And after I was blindfolded and handcuffed, one of the Israeli soldiers who spoke good Arabic said to us, "Oh, you raped," he said in Arabic, "you raped our women, you killed our children, we're gonna show you." And then he started to slap us on the backs of our necks and kicking us with in his boots. So, and that, all of that, I didn't know what was happening. I asked them if they had any proof that I was Hamas or I was a military person, and that Israeli captain, I was still near the checkpoint in Gaza. He slapped me across the face. He told me, you give us proof." Right. So I was taken then to, I think 90% it was Sdeti Man, because from the photos and videos that I watch these days, I remember the details of that place, and it very much looks like Sdeti Man. I was kept there for
notorious torture chamber.
Indeed, yeah. And I remember even the bathroom, the plastic bathroom, the toilets, the plastic toilets. And I remained for the 53 hours, I remained blindfolded and handcuffed. And I was denied any medical treatment because one Israeli soldier kicked me in my face and my stomach, and I had some pain in my ear where I had surgery 2 years before in the US. So, I mean, I was lucky because many people knew me out of Gaza, and they demanded my release. It's not to say that Israel had anything against me. I mean, someone who's a writer, who is a refugee, someone who was wounded in an airstrike in 2009. I was 16 years old. So I have everything, you know, to ask, to demand that they be put on trial. Because what they did to me as a child, what they did to me as a grown-up, what they did to my family and relatives during the past few months. So I was released, and I had to wait for 10 days before the Rafah border crossing was open, and we left for Egypt, and we continue until today to watch and report on what Israel has been committing against our people.
Was it hard to find your family after you were released?
No, this is a good question. No one asked me this question. But I did write about that.
I'm sure they don't make it. I'm sure they're not like, "Oh, we apologize for the inconvenience. Here's your phone. Here's your."
You know what, Ryan? What happened is that when I was abducted, and this is important for the American people to know, okay? Before I was abducted, I was holding all the passports, including my son's American passport, on the top, because the Israeli soldiers and the person with the megaphone who was calling out people's description, you know, to come to the plot of land where they were concentrating those who they want to abduct. So I was hoping that they would see the American passport, because they had that kind of binocular, a big telescope. I don't know, is it a telescope?
Something like that, yeah.
So they were using that machine. So I was hoping, you know, that they could see, you know, the American passport and say, "Oh, there is an American family" or something. But that was not what happened. When they took me, I told them I want to say something. If someone has to talk to me, okay? My name is Mosab, and we have an American boy, and we are leaving Gaza. We are leaving Gaza, right? But they took
what you
what
want,
happened.
right?
What happened is that they took our passports, they took my watch, they took my wallet, they took my clothes, and when they released me, they only gave me my Palestinian ID card. That was the only thing they gave me. So when I left Gaza, I didn't have any of my passports. Even the American passport, they stole the American passport.
How did you manage to confirm who your son was?
To whom?
I guess as you were exiting, because
Yeah.
if you're traveling, you lose your passport, you're screwed.
The good thing is that the Palestinian ID card, it had an attachment which lists the names of the wife and the 3 children. So yeah, but it was Ryan, it was in Arabic and Hebrew. So our ID cards have our names and our mother's names, our birthplaces, everything in Arabic and in Hebrew.
I always remember that details like that when Israel talks about how we withdrew from Gaza. We had nothing to do with Gaza. It's like, well, then what's this? What's this? What's this?
Why are we using the Israeli shekel?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why did Israel? I mean, one of the things that Israel cannot deny is that they destroyed. If they are not occupying Gaza after 2005, why did they bomb the only airport in Gaza in 2001? And why have they not allowed Palestinians to rebuild their own airport? And why are they not allowing Palestinians to have their own seaport through which they could travel and through which they could receive people or goods? So if they are not controlling Gaza or occupying it, why cannot we have the freedom to move? Not only to move, but also to receive visitors and relatives. And the last time my aunt Alia, who was born in 1949, the last time she visited us, she moved to live in Jordan with her husband, also from the same family, was in 2000. And she passed away 1 year ago. So the last time she visited Gaza was in 2000. She couldn't later come to Gaza to visit us. And we as Palestinians in Gaza, we couldn't go and visit her in Jordan, which is only about 4 hours by car if we go through the West Bank.
Last thing for you, and then I'll let you go. In 2014, I was part of a group of reporters that were brought in for a briefing at the Israeli embassy here in Washington, D.C. about that ongoing war. And one of the lines that they always give reporters is, where they're the most moral army in the world, because one of the things they said was they send a text message to all the people in a building before they bomb the building. And I said, you said you withdrew from here years ago. How do you have everybody's cell phone numbers?
Do they call 10 people in the tents too?
Well, I mean, none of it makes sense.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, I will tell you something. My own house, where I grew up, when we moved to Bethlehem in 2000, I was 8 years when we moved to that house. Our house, and we were lucky, our house was bombed on October 28th in Bethlehem. It was a 4-story building, and it was bombed with no one calling us. And we were lucky because we were in the Jabalia refugee camp. Otherwise, the whole family, my father, my mother, my siblings, 5 of them, no, not 5, 6 of them, 3 of them are girls who are married with their children. So about 30 people could have been killed in that airstrike on October 28th if we were still in the house.
Yeah.
And no one called us.
No phone call.
To the opposite, my father went back the next morning to our house in Bethlehem. You know what? You know why? Because he wanted to feed the pigeons and the ducks and the rabbits that he was raising in the garden of our house. So when he went back to our house, he was, where's the house? Where are the first thing my father would be looking at, because it was some kind of a hill before he arrived at the house. He would look at the water tanks on the top of the house. So he couldn't see the water tanks. And then he moved his eyes down, and then, oh my goodness, there is no house anymore.
Yeah.
So it is a big lie that, I mean, sometimes, to be honest, sometimes Israel would call people, I mean, these days it's maybe 5%, 10% of the time, they would call them and give them 5 minutes to evacuate. But
I've heard
if
that
that
too.
was true, it is not true of 90% of the people who, many of whom are still buried under the rubble of their houses, including some of my wife's relatives, including my great aunt Fatima Dibis, who was killed with 15 of her family in October 2024. And before that house bombed, Ryan, this is very important. In October, I forget that, I think it was it was early October 2024. I was in South Africa taking part in a poetry festival. The day before the house was bombed, I saw a video of my mother's cousin on the phone with a member of the civil defense forces in Gaza, telling them that they are in the Jabal refugee camp. The house is surrounded by Israeli soldiers, tanks, and these booby-trapped vehicles. So he was asking them, we can't go out. They would kill us. Please come and get us out safely, blah, blah, blah. And then 20 hours after that, the house was bombed. The house was bombed. And 16 people were killed, including my great aunt, Fatima. I wrote about her in one of my pieces in the New Yorker. She was killed in that airstrike, and her body is still under the rubble until today. She was killed along with some of her children and grandchildren. One of the grandchildren was a first cousin of mine, Sama Adibis, and I posted a photo of her, and her body is still under the rubble until today. So the person you're talking about, that you are talking to, is one person. Right. And I told you the story of my great aunt and her family. I talked to you about my wife's uncle, who was killed with his wife and their 3 daughters. One of the daughters was killed with her husband and their 3 children. And the bodies of many of these people are still buried until today. And there are so many other stories about which I wrote on my social media, and I talked about when I had the chance to speak with some journalists and some TV hosts. So this is one person who's talking to you. And I'm not done talking. Just imagine if we had many other people who are still in Gaza and who witnessed more and more massacres. Just imagine how many stories, how many voices. This is why it is important, why Substack, why Meta, why X must not remove or suspend, remove our posts or suspend our accounts, because we are posting about things that we know about. I'm not a journalist who's talking about people who I have, sympathy for. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about myself, about my relatives, about my students, about my neighbors. So they should be, cautious when they try and remove something that Palestinian journalists and writers post on their social media. Otherwise, they are complicit. And of course, they are complicit. Otherwise, they would be more complicit in the ongoing genocide.
Of course. Well, Mosab, his X account is Mosab Abu Toha. Your Substack is the same name. I strongly recommend everybody subscribe to that. Follow you on Twitter, wherever else that you can find you, Instagram. But I really appreciate you taking some time and joining us here.
Appreciate you, Ryan, your voice, also DropSite for amplifying and working tirelessly to amplify the stories and the truth of what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.